Yeah, I read a lot this month.
I'm just sitting here.
Hello and Happy New Year. I am so excited to have a fresh year to start off with. A new decade. Last decade was super difficult for me. My husband had a traumatic brain injury, and that's enough right there. But anyway, I'm excited to start a new decade and just to see what happens in the coming year, and especially with my reading. My next video, I plan to talk about 2020 reading goals, but today's video, I'm going to talk about what I read in December. In the beginning of the month, I participated in the Tis the Seasonathon, and I vlogged, sort of half vlogged that, but I did a wrap-up video for Tis the Seasonathon, and I'll make sure to link that video. I really had such a good time reading all those Christmas books that I decided I wanted to have a personal goal to finish out the year reading only Christmas books, or books that had to deal with the winter or that took place around Christmas, even if Christmas might not have been the focus of them. I read 20 plus books this month, and as always, I like to diversify my reading, and so as I talk about it, I will section them into middle grade, young adult, and adult books, and I'll post timestamps right here. So if you're not interested in the middle grade or young adult section, you can skip ahead to what you want to listen to. Starting the month off, before the Tis the Seasonathon started, I read The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus by L. Frank Baum. He is the author of the Wizard of Oz books, and this is his take on the origin story of Santa Claus. This was a reread for me, and in fact, I first read this story as a kid, and this is my childhood copy. I really enjoyed this when I was a kid, so I wanted to revisit the story. I do have to say, reading it as an adult gave me a bit of a different perspective. He kind of has it easy in life in this story. He is a found child, found abandoned in a magical forest, and the fairies adopt him and raise him as their own. And as he grows up, they just kind of do and take care of everything for him. Like, when he becomes an adult, he goes to this beautiful place in the forest and he's like, I'm going to build a house here. I'll do it in the morning. And then in the morning, he wakes up and there is a beautiful house built for him, complete with everything that he needs. He doesn't even have to grow his own food. There's a cupboard that just provides everything for him. So I guess maybe the focus of this is that he has all the time in the world he needs to create, toys and gifts that he gives to the children. So that part of it was really interesting. I would have liked to see him work for things a little bit more, a little bit of hardship to give him some character growth. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Next, I read The Nutcracker and the Mouse King by E.T.A. Hoffman. This is the original story that the Nutcracker Ballet is based off of, and it was pretty interesting to read. It was a little dry in parts. So the story is a bit different than what the Nutcracker Ballet has evolved into. The main character's name is Marie Stahlbaum, and on Christmas Eve, she is given the gift of a nutcracker. So each night as she goes to sleep, she kind of enters this magical land, and she learns that the nutcracker that she was gifted has actually been cursed. And so she has to figure out how to break the curse and decide whether or not she wants to help the Nutcracker to fight this vicious Mouse King. It's actually quite a short story, so it only took me an afternoon to read it. I liked it. It wasn't the best thing I've ever read. For me personally, I did give it 3 stars. I'm glad I read it because it's a classic, but I think that I'm actually probably more of a fan of retellings when it comes to this story versus the actual source material. And then I picked up Young Scrooge, A Very Scary Christmas Story by R.L. Stine. This is a Scrooge retelling involving a child whose name is Rick Scroogeman. Understandably, with a name like that and being forced to listen to A Christmas Carol, to hear and read the story every year through his school, he hates Christmas. So one thing I think that R.L. Stine did very well in this book was how unlikable he made Rick Scroogeman. The character of Scrooge is an unlikable character anyway, but he did a good job on this child. He was a bully, and a pretty terrible one at that. And he was unaware of the way that he made others feel. And so through his experiences with the paranormal things that happened to him in the book, he comes to realize, of course, as the story goes, that he might need to change his ways. But of course, this being an R.L. Stine book, there are twists and turns and unexpected things that happen. I actually really liked this. I gave it 4 stars. R.L. Stine has a very simple writing style, at least as far as his middle grade books go. I can't speak to his other books because I haven't read any of his older books for like YA. I don't even know if he does adult books. I'll look and see. But the simplicity of his writing style really works, in my opinion, for middle grade books, and I'm really glad that I read this. Another fun book that I picked up was The Christmas Saurus by Tom Fletcher. This is about a boy who asks for a dinosaur for Christmas and gets far more than he ever expected, plus a dash of adventure on Christmas Eve. It has some pretty spectacular illustrations by Shane DeVries, and it has some really good disability representation as the main character is in a wheelchair. You see his little wheelchair on the back of the book there. I will say that there is some bullying in this book. It does get resolved by the end of the story, but the child who does the bullying is a devil child. She does apologize in the end, and this is a book that deals in hyperbole, so there is exaggerated things that happen all the time. It's super fun and it's really cute. So all of the bullying and the things like that do get resolved by the end, and I had a lot of fun reading this, and I gave it 4 stars. And lastly, as far as middle grade books go, I read all 4 books by Matt Haig that deal with his Christmas stories. The first one is called A Boy Called Christmas, and it's all about Nicholas, the little boy who grows up to become Father Christmas. It's very Roald Dahl-esque, and plus there are awesome illustrations by Chris Mould. I don't want to tell too much about the story because it's just something that's just so cute. You should totally read it. It's magical and wonderful. I recommend reading it now, even after Christmas, or if you want to help get yourself in the Christmas mood, save these books for next year because they are totally worth it. The second book in the series is called The Girl Who Saved Christmas, and this one is about a young girl named Amelia. Amelia is the first child that Father Christmas ever delivered a present to. And she not only needs saving herself, but she needs to help save Christmas as well. And then the third book in the series is called Father Christmas and Me. This is the further adventures of Amelia and Father Christmas. And lastly, the fourth book in the series is actually numbered 3.5, and it's called The Truth Pixie. And so this book is about her as the main character. And I actually feel that this book could have been expanded into an entire novel. It would have been really interesting. The Truth Pixie is one of my favorite characters in the other books. She's hilarious. And so it would have been really fun to have a book from her perspective. So I ended up giving all the other books in the series 5 stars, and I gave The Truth Pixie 4 stars. Moving on to YA books. I picked up Anna and the Apocalypse by Kathleen Turner along with Barry Waldo. And in this story, Anna and her friends find themselves facing a full-on zombie apocalypse during Christmas time. I actually started reading this before realizing that there is a movie that existed before the book was ever written. I kind of have a feeling that the movie is probably just a little bit better. The book lacks a little bit of depth. There's not much character growth, but it was fun to read. It is kind of like light horror. It's gross. I mean, it's a zombie book. There's going to be some gross parts to it, but it's not scary in the least. And there's a lot of dark humor to it. And the characters just are who they are. But, you know, that's okay. And I actually did enjoy reading it despite the lack of depth. So I did give it 3 stars. And next, I picked up Henderbell, The Shadow of St. Nicholas by J.D. Netto. I was fortunate enough to win this in an Instagram giveaway. I was so excited. I very rarely win giveaways, and I've won 2 this year. This book is about siblings Enzo and Ava. There's a family curse and magic. They have to save 2 worlds, and there's a dark Christmas twist. So in the beginning, Enzo and Ava are at home, and they do not have a happy home life. And suddenly they find that they're going to be shipped to their grandparents' house for Christmas. Enzo is feeling very ambivalent about it. His grandparents have been absent from his life for the last several years, and he is just struggling with that. And after they arrive at his grandparents' house, things start to happen. I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars, and I will definitely be keeping an eye out for any sequels. Now on to the adult books. I picked up The Perfect Christmas by Debbie Macomber. I had read another Debbie Macomber book previously during the Tis the Seasonathon, but I thought I would give another one a go. This one was billed more the comedy, and I enjoyed it a lot more. It was called, oh yeah, I said that, The Perfect Christmas. And so the protagonist in this is Cassie Beaumont, and she kind of has a thing about having the perfect Christmas. And for her, that means finding her perfect match. So she actually hires a matchmaker in the hopes that he will help her find her happily ever after. So like I said, this was a romantic comedy, so there were several moments in it that were funny, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I think my tastes in romance books are changing. I have never been one to read like super steamy romances. Those just aren't for me. But I think I like romance that has more of a romantic comedy side to it, which is probably why I enjoyed this one more than Starry Night, which was the book that I read previously by her. Starry Night is one that I enjoyed in the past. I just didn't enjoy it like now. So I think my tastes are changing. Next, I read another book called Apple Cider Slaying by Julie Ann Lindsay. This is a cozy murder mystery that takes place at an apple cider during Christmas time. The main character's name is Winnie, and her family's apple orchard is struggling, and so they are trying to expand their business by including winter and holiday themed activities. But her grandmother's longtime nemesis turns up dead, found in their cider press. And so, of course, Winnie needs to get involved in the investigation because her grandmother is being accused of murder. I love a good cozy mystery, and so I gave this 5 stars. The next book I read was called The Santa Claus Murder by Mavis Duriel Hay. This was a very Agatha Christie-like murder mystery. In fact, this book was written during the 1930s. So in this story, the family patriarch is found dead with a bullet in his head, and of course everybody is a suspect, and the Christmas festivities come to a grinding halt as the murder needs to be solved. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I read Christmas Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella. Previously to this, I had read just the first Shopaholic book, I think. I'm not sure if I've read any of the others. But I went ahead and read this because I had heard that you could read it without knowing too much about the other books. And I will say it is a little spoilery as far as her life goes if you do decide to read the Christmas book out of order. However, it didn't ruin my enjoyment. I'm still going to go back and read the other ones because in reading Christmas Shopaholic, I remembered how much I like the character of Becky Bloomwood. She's just so fun, and she's funny, and she makes such silly mistakes. It's just the kind of light, fluffy, humorous book that I like to read. So in this one, she finds herself completely overwhelmed because her parents, who usually host their holiday gathering, have moved away, and she suddenly finds that she is in charge of the holidays for her family and friends, and she likes to go overboard with everything, and so she just gets herself into trouble, and it's funny, and I really liked it, and I gave it 5 stars. After that, I read Hercule Poirot's Christmas by Agatha Christie. I love Agatha Christie's books. I have read a number of them. I am working on trying to reread all of them in the next year. I'll talk about that a little bit more in my next video, which is my 2020 reading goals. However, yes, back to this one. So in this book, the poisonous Simeon Lee invites his adult children home for the holidays. But he definitely doesn't have heartwarming festivities in mind, and his insults and barbs against his children are definitely not appreciated. So of course, when he is found dead, Hercule Poirot must be called in to solve the case. So of course, I gave this book 5 stars. And lastly, I read Henry the Queen's Corgi by Georgie Crawley. It's all about Henry, this adorable corgi who gets separated from his family and mistaken for one of the Queen's dogs when he wanders into the Buckingham Palace grounds. Luckily for Henry, the Queen is away because she would have noticed this mistake instantly. However, the staff at the castle have been told to expect a new pet, and they just think that it's Henry and welcome him in, no questions asked. So this book follows 2 perspectives. It follows Henry as he navigates the struggles of becoming a royal pet, and also Henry's family, the Walkers, who are going through some rough times of their own. It's adorable and light and fluffy, which I think is kind of a staple for me, especially around the holidays. I'm looking for mostly just fun and easy reads, and this definitely fit the bill. I gave it 5 stars. I would read it again. It's really cute. Well, that is it for me for this reading video. I had such a wonderful reading month, and actually I had a pretty great holiday season, so I'm really happy about that. Don't forget to like this video, and if you're not subscribed, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you soon in a new video. Bye.